Hi guys, it's Megan from imamom2.wordpress.com. If you follow me on my Facebook page, you'll know that a couple weekends ago, we actually tried glow-in-the-dark bowling. In one sentence, I will share that my son actually had his first meltdown in a very, very, very long time. Last summer he had one when he had dental surgery, and I told them beforehand not to let him wake up with the IV still in his arm, and they let him wake up. And he had a meltdown, and he took out a nurse and by headbutting her and all this kind of stuff. But I would say now that meltdowns happen probably on average maybe once a year, something like that. As compared to, rewinding a few years ago, I'd say when he was about 4 or 5 years old, he would have a meltdown a few times a week. But now, once a year, that's pretty good. Because there is a difference between meltdowns and tantrums. Tantrums are just the child wants something, is told no, and starts to act out. Like that, you just kind of have to parent through it and discipline through it, and whether you give in to the child's wants or not, that's your choice. I place no judgment either way. Just, do what you need to do at that time. And just remembering that, how you deal with that tantrum is how, the child is going to expect you to deal with it in the future. So that's whatever. Tantrums are very, very different from autistic meltdowns. Autistic meltdowns are when children, well, specifically when a child, because I'm talking about children right now, get completely overwhelmed with external overstimulus. So the primary example in this case is that we tried going bowling. We've been bowling before, but the kids were much younger. And the last time that we went bowling was actually with the local chapter of Autism Ontario here. And they had created an event. So we ended up going to the bowling alley, and the music was lower, there was less sounds, there was duller lighting, and it was just, and we took up about half of the bowling alley itself with other families with kids with autism, so other people that get it. So we all just kind of did our thing and kept, watching out for all of our kids and encouraging people and being able to switch out, because we all get it, we all understand what the issues are with a meltdown. And so, fast forward a couple of years, we decided that on the weekend to go bowling. And we walked in, and there apparently were 2 birthday parties happening at that time upstairs, and that's where the glow-in-the-dark bowling was, which frankly is kind of cool. And there was 1 lane open there, and then downstairs there was apparently a league going on, but it wasn't glow in the dark bowling, it was just regular lighting. But there were no lanes open there. So the kids got really, really excited to be able to do glow in the dark bowling, while my stomach just started cringing. And I should have listened to it, but hindsight is 20/20. So basically from the moment that we walked into the bowling alley, my son started acting up, and I could tell that it wasn't a meltdown yet, but he was having a hard time transitioning to the bowling shoes, which I was fully expecting that, because it always takes time to transition between, running shoes and sandals, and then sandals back to running shoes in the different seasons. That just takes time, and it's kind of the way it is. So I was expecting some pushback from him with putting bowling shoes on. And then, trying to get a child that's doing the pushback to tell me whether or not his shoes are too big or too small can really work. I mean, he's limited verbal. Um, so eventually I'm like, you know what? He's put them on a couple times and then kicked them off again. So maybe we'll just go upstairs and where the lane was and the other two kids were and my boyfriend was, and maybe give my son some time to kind of settle down into things, because let's face it, he was getting overwhelmed with all the balls clanging and the pins dropping in the laneways and different people and lots of people and all this. So we went upstairs and he went up the stairs okay, which was great because he's 100 plus pounds now at 9 years old, and I can't carry him up the stairs. So we got upstairs, and at the top of the stairs it was okay, but as we started moving towards the lane, which meant that we were moving towards the glow in the dark lighting, was when he lost it. And let's see, I think we did 2 turns for him on the laneway, and no, that was it. It was beyond what he could do, and he was throwing himself around. He was hitting the other kids that were there. Like my daughter, he was hitting her, and it, no, it wasn't beating, but it was just kind of, she'd walk by and he'd hit. And once he starts to get into that violent stage, it just, no, I can't accept that, and we're leaving. And it just, the meltdown looks very, very different. And as soon as you remove the child from that overstimulus, they're able to calm down. But it wasn't that it wasn't a tantrum. It wasn't where he was sitting there and saying, I don't want to bowl, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't it at all. He was totally over processing all the different stimuli around. So there was the neon lighting, there was the black lighting, there was the different colors around, there was the sound of the bowls going down the lanes, banging against the pins themselves dropping, I don't even know what it's called that actually clears out the pins at the end of the laneway. There's all the other kids in there. And our kids on the autism spectrum, they process sounds and lights and smells and basically everything to do with the 5 senses. They overprocess them. And so when they're thrown into a situation like this, no amount of social stories are going to help him prepare for the bombardment of overstimulus. So I had to get him out of there basically as fast as possible. And then when we came and told, my boyfriend that just call when you're ready to be picked up, and because I had to take the car, obviously, call and I'll come back and pick you up, you and your son and my daughter, and so that you guys at least can continue to play. Because that was the thing when the kids were younger, is if my son melted down and it was just me and him and my daughter, I had no choice. Like, I would have to take my daughter away from the situation as well, because it's not like I could leave my little 4-year-old girl at, for example, the bowling alley. The 3 of us would have to leave. So at least in this situation, my boyfriend, his son, and my daughter were able to stay and enjoy themselves. While I took my son home and just kind of gave him an opportunity to decompress. And for him, his decompression is circuits around the house. And I think that lasted for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. But I know that that's what he needs to be able to decompress from a meltdown or from an overstimulated situation or environment like that. It did make me realize now that he is much bigger, that he is much stronger, and I don't think that really any amount of working out or strength training that I can do will be able to keep up with his growth and his strength, and frankly, autism strength. So I have to do some thinking. as to how to continue to manage any future meltdowns, because they are about once a year or so. So if you have any suggestions for me for that, please comment below as to how you might be able to manage your child's autistic meltdowns, because autism is very, very strong. And really, you can't outstrength it. Is that even a word? I don't think so. Anyway, um, so I am going to have to do some thinking about this and figure it out, because the reality is that there will be meltdowns in the future, and I just need to be more prepared for them and figure out how to deal with it. Because really the only way to deal with a meltdown is to remove overstimulus. When he was smaller and having them on a weekly, 2 or 3 times a week, it was simpler because, and it sounds weird, but I would tackle him to the ground. I'd take my hair out of the ponytail that it was usually in, and be kind of right in his face, on top of him with my hair around his face, so that I was removing the visual overstimulus, at least, so I could remove one of the 5 senses to try to help him calm down, and he would focus solely on my face and my voice. And that worked when he was littler, when he was 4, but now he's 9.5 and twice the size and much stronger. So yeah, please comment below and let me know how you're able to kind of manage your child's meltdowns, whether you're a professional that's working with a child with autism or a parent or caregiver. So, and don't forget to subscribe as well, and check me out on my different social media channels too. Bye, guys.